And we're back live. I'm David Boles. This is Boles.tv. I thank you so much for being here today. We are here usually Monday through Friday, live, semi-live, 9 a.m. Eastern. And as we finish out the week, it's always interesting to have a conversation about things that are unspoken, things that are taboo. And one of the unspoken things in the world is how adjuncts are treated by their universities. Now, it's always very tempting for these universities to try to claim the high road, that they're fair and equitable and that they take care of their people, and they really don't. Being an adjunct today in America is one of the most thankless and rather awful jobs in academia. Adjuncts are undervalued, and this is the title of a book that we're going to talk about next, The Adjunct Underclass: How America's Colleges Betrayed Their Faculty, Their Students, and Their Mission. Adjuncts are not paid appropriately. Adjuncts are taken advantage of. Adjuncts hope to have a life that often they cannot afford to have. The pay for an adjunct is usually very miserly, and there's really no job security, there's no pension, there's no profit participation, no automatic health care. You're not a full-time employee, you're an adjunct. You're a hired hand for work. And 76% of many universities have adjuncts teaching undergraduates. The faculty, most of them, don't want to teach undergraduates. They want to teach graduate students and use them for research opportunities. Now, in the past, you have examples of classic geniuses like Mark Van Doren at Columbia, who enjoyed teaching freshmen. And he would have a freshman symposium every semester, and it was an introduction to literature and the arts. And the students loved him, and he loved the students. You don't find much of that going on today in major universities. Machines can do the work. Adjuncts can do the teaching. And adjuncts serve at the whim of the university and the department. Some universities require you to send in a letter every year to say, I want to teach, as part of the union bargaining. And if you fail to send in the letter, well, then all bets are off. You might teach, you might not teach, but now you've given us a cudgel to wield against you. You're not guaranteed a class, you're not going to guaranteed a certain time of day. Now, maybe you can say, oh, I don't want to teach in the morning, I only want to teach in the afternoon. And the university can either accommodate you or tell you to get out. But the more prestigious the university, the more competition you have, and the more selective you cannot be about setting your own schedule. And for many adjuncts trying to get into the field, you wind up teaching at 7:30 in the morning or 7 o'clock at night. Because most of the full-time faculty and adjunct faculty, if they have experience and they don't have any other job, they want to teach at 11 a.m. and be done by 1 p.m. So it's a difficult life to be an adjunct. And I've done a lot of adjunct teaching in many places over the last 30 years. It can be interesting. It can be enjoyable. You become an adjunct for your students. You don't become an adjunct for the university. You become an adjunct for the love of teaching, not for the money. And there's no fame and no glory in being an adjunct. You have the same expectations as a full-time faculty member with none of the benefits. And so I would do it every once in a while just to keep in touch, with the outside world, because as a writer, sometimes you're stuck in a basement, windowless room for hours and hours all by yourself. And sometimes it's good to get out in the world, meet new minds, teach people who are interested in learning something. Not all are. And it can be rewarding. But I know people who have been adjuncts for 25 years at the same university. And there's no recognition, there's no celebration, there's no thankfulness. But there's always the threat in the air that if you don't behave, if you don't act properly, then you're not going to be teaching here anymore. And then you're part of the university in a small way as an adjunct, and you read things from your department. Oh, Sarah's been here for 5 years. Oh, George is celebrating his 10th year's employment as an assistant administrator. Oh, great, the department's celebrating. And there are your adjuncts who have been teaching in that department for 25 years and not one word of thankfulness, not one word of appreciation, or even small recognition. Adjuncts are just ignored. You should be thanking us that we allow you to teach here. And then there are unions that are supposed to represent adjuncts, and the unions are terrible. Oh, we get minimums. They don't do anything. And if there's a problem with teaching or something that's being unfair or an inequity, the union doesn't care. The union cares about your dues. The union cares not about you. The union cares about the union. And there are people working in the union who represent people making $58,000 a year as the head of the union at one school. It's like, who are you? You don't even teach. You're just collecting a paycheck that we all pay with dues that we pay to the union. All collective bargaining. It really doesn't make any difference. They claim it does, but in the end it doesn't. There are no real protections. Adjuncts will never be treated the same as full-time faculty. It's just a plain and awful truth. And students don't know that. Students think that adjuncts are regular professors and that they are available and that they're going to be excited and they're going to help do research. We're going to work together. And it's always a shock when you say, look, I'm not full-time faculty. I'm not here every day. I come in, I teach for an hour, and I leave. I can't do those kind of things because I'm not paid for it. I can't be your advisor. I can't help you on a research paper because that means I'm volunteering my time and I'm not getting paid for it. I'm not on salary. I'm on an hourly basis payment system. And usually, if you're lucky and you're an adjunct, you get 2 classes a semester. That seems to be the limit that universities like to impose on adjuncts. And if you're super lucky, you get 1 class after the other, and you can go home and you're done. But sometimes you're unlucky. And sometimes the university says, look, if you want 2 classes, you're going to teach at 7:30 in the morning, and your second class is 5 o'clock at night. And then the adjunct says, what am I supposed to do from 9 to 4? I'm not going to go home because it takes me an hour to get here. Not our problem, the university says. Go to the library, have lunch, do some studying, meet students. Some adjuncts get so desperate that they go, if they're lucky enough, they live in a big enough town, they can go to another school, college, university, and teach in that middle part and come back. I'm reminded of an instructor that I knew when I was an adjunct at Rutgers University. And she was very famous and very well known as being a machine, a human machine. And she taught in the English department. And she was an adjunct. And through some special thing she had with the university, they were able to work out that she would be able to teach 4 classes a semester. Now, usually you can only teach 2. And every once in a while, if you're lucky, maybe they'll give you a third class on an emergency basis, a contingency basis, but not regularly. So somehow she was able to work out 4 classes a semester, which to me is crazy. Nobody, full-time faculty, nobody teaches 4 classes a semester of introductory English with 50 students in a class, and they're writing term papers. So 50 term papers, midterm, final, 100 pages, 100 midterm essays, papers, per class times 4 classes, 400. And they're each what? 10 pages each? 1,000 pages to read and grade, and she would read and grade it all. So she was this machine, and the university, in my opinion, at that time, a long time ago, was taking advantage of her. And she was willfully part of it because she said, this is my job. I don't have any other job. I need the money. So I teach 4 classes of English a semester. And I'm not full-time. I have no benefits. I can barely pay my rent. I am grateful to the department for taking care of me. And I'm thinking, you're here, you have a PhD, you're teaching 4 classes, and they won't give you a full-time slot on the faculty. And yes, she was a little odd, and yes, she was sort of strange to talk to in the lunchroom. And if you happened to sit in her seat in the lunchroom by mistake, which happened to me once, she will come up to you and say, get out of my seat, you're in my spot. Which is very weird at a university faculty lunchroom. Which then begins a conversation like, oh, are you a regular here? Why, yes, I teach 4 classes a semester. Get out of my table. Because I guess she would use her lunch hour to grade papers. She was always grading something. And she was frightened of the sun, and she would use a parasol. And you just couldn't help this feeling that this was a desperate person who had been traumatized by her experience of trying to teach for 20 years 4 classes a semester and trying to make ends meet and not making ends meet. So it is a dirty little secret that the adjuncts do all the hard teaching while the full-time faculty concentrates on research and messing around intellectually with their graduate students. And some adjuncts are starting to fight back, saying, look, I don't do that. I'm not volunteering my time. If you want me to advise this student, if you want me to go to this event, the university can pay me. And very quickly you're told, no, don't do it. We're not paying you for that. Go home, adjunct. So the Adjunct Underclass is this terrific book. And here's how it starts, the preface. This is how you kill a profession. How did we discard the idea of a college faculty? That is, how did we decide to systematically eliminate an entire class of professionals whom we once entrusted to conduct the final distillation of our children into capable, confident adults? How did we come to decide that college teachers didn't deserve job security, didn't deserve health insurance, didn't deserve to make more than convenience store clerks? It wasn't hard, really. We discarded college faculty in the same way that we discarded medical general practitioners, through providing insane rewards to specialists and leaving most care in the hands of paraprofessionals. And that's what I said. The specialists, in this case, are the full-time faculty. Paraprofessionals are the adjuncts. I go to my heart doctor. He doesn't see me anymore. His physician's assistant sees me, which is sort of lucky because I really don't have any serious problems. I'm just on maintenance medication. But the thing is, well, if you want to see the doctor, it's going to be about, 4-hour wait. But if you want to see the physician's assistant, she'll see you right now. What do you want to do? It's a choice without a choice. And the book continues. We discarded college faculty in the same way we discarded cab drivers. By leveling the profession and allowing anyone to participate as long as they had a minimum credential and didn't need much money. We discarded college faculty in the same way that we discarded magazine and newspaper writers. By relabeling the work content and its workers content providers. We discharged college faculty in the same way we discarded local auto mechanics. By making all the systems and regulations so sophisticated that they now require an army of technicians and specialized equipment. We discarded college faculty in the same way that we discarded bookkeepers. By finally letting women do it, after decades of declaring that impossible. And then immediately reducing the status of the work once it became evident that women could, in fact, do it well. So this is a terrific book. It's hard-hitting. If you're a parent with a college-age student, a high school student, you need to read this book to know what's going on. So maybe you'll fight for the better education of your kids. Because these big universities have millions and billions of dollars in their trust, and they don't want to pay their teachers or their graduate students. So here are some of the chapter topics of this wonderful book. What the brochures don't tell you, the permanent and the contingent, bronze, silver, gold, or platinum, building the contingent workforce, the adjuncts. If we don't pay teachers, why is my tuition so high? Well, isn't that interesting? Students at many major East Coast universities, Ivy League private schools, paying $60,000 a semester for their college education. Probably $500,000 by the time they're done with an undergraduate degree at a 4-year institution. And I can tell you right now, through direct experience, that money is not going to the adjunct faculty. Maybe it's going to the permanent faculty. It's definitely going into the administrative pockets. It's not going to the people who are teaching your children. Other chapters include the comforts of those inside the castle, the administrators, the hapless bystanders, and what are we going to do about this? And that's how a year ago, I read an article about this woman who had been an adjunct at a university for, I think, 20 years, teaching the same class for 20 years. She said something inadvertently that the university found offensive, and they fired her. And she said, "What do you mean you fired me? I've been here 20 years. You don't have a contract. You're a day worker," pretty much is what they said. "We don't owe you anything." And she was out on her street. And nobody cared. Students didn't care. University didn't care. And even at major universities, where you've been teaching for 25 years, they can change your schedule. They can change what classes you teach, even if they don't know anything about the subject. You serve at the whim of dictators. And the sad part about it is, even if you are protected by a union, if the university wants to get rid of you, even in the best union contracts, all they have to do is pay you your fee, your teaching fee for a semester, and then they throw you the hell out. That's how they break the contract. That's how they break the union rule. Because the rule is, at least I guess people think, well, I'm protected for a semester. So if I get fired, I'll be paid for that semester, and then I could go find another adjunct appointment and hope to survive. And unfortunately, it really doesn't work out that way. So I guess some schools who have, union protection, where they pay you a little something as they kick you out the door, and they can get rid of you for any reason. They don't have to have a reason. They say, we don't want to use you anymore. We don't like you. You're out. Here's some money. Spend it wisely and never come back. Now, they can't do that to a tenured professor. A tenured professor is protected. A tenured professor can speak his or her mind. A tenured professor has a process of protection for freedom of speech, freedom of thought. You can say the wrong thing, you can say the bad thing, and they're not going to throw you out. They're not going to take away your classes because they decide they don't like you. Adjuncts do not have that protection in the university. And the university will play along. They'll say, we're equitable, we're fair to everybody, we are a kumbaya school. But they're not. They don't mean any of it. And what a life. And is that who you want teaching your children? Are these people who are being threatened and brought around by a ring in their nose? If you behave, I'm going to pull it out and you're going to bleed to death? Is that the kind of intellectual capacity you want being taught to your college-age kids? And the adjuncts try to stand up, try to come together, try to form a barrier. But people are desperate. People want to get in the door. There's always something else. Always somebody else. And many adjuncts think they're irreplaceable. Oh, they can't possibly teach that class without me. Oh, it's impossible. Well, just try. Say the wrong thing, behave the wrong way, displease the wrong person, and you'll see they get fine. They get along fine without you. Who needs you? You're just an adjunct. You're not really a part of the faculty. You have a temporary email address, temporary access to the library. I can pull it from you at any time I like. So you live, you work in terror. That's the life of the adjunct teacher. And I tell you, it's a harrowing one. Where semester to semester, you wonder, is the appointment going to come through or fall apart? There's no guarantee. And there's no guarantee in real life, but compared to a full-time faculty member who sets their own schedule, makes their own demands, the adjunct is nothing but a beggar on the street. And so I thank you for being here with me this week on Boles.tv, live Monday through Friday, 9 a.m. Eastern, where we try to wrestle with the idea of what it means to be a human, what it means to live a life of conundrums and puzzles, and how we try to overcome despair with